All right, I think we are good to go to begin. So, hello everybody. Welcome to our event for the online exhibition for the show Isolated Intentions. My name is Tatum DeMarco. I'm a fourth year student studying art history, and I'm also interning with the University Galleries, and I will be hosting this event today. We're very excited to be holding this event and helping to bring this exhibition to you all. And I now want to introduce you all to Denise Benitez-gonzalez, who is an undergraduate studio art sculpture student, a featured artist, and also the curator of the show.
Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you all for attending this. This is really exciting. So before I go into the premise of the show, basically when I wanted to do a sculpture show, before the pandemic, before the closure, I had envisioned doing a group show at the gallery, and it was just going to be a fun sculpture show. But pandemic hit, and fast forward, school closed, and everything shifted. My whole idea of what I wanted to do shifted. So first of all, the show is called Isolated Intentions. It's a group sculpture show, and the participating artists that I selected to participate, aside from myself, are April Arnold, Julie Crum, Kalina Hunt, John Kleiber, Zala, Renee Marie, Maria Mariscal, Ember, Matthew Pugh, Andrew Rosas, Heather Schlesinger, Becca Stanley, Mary Tinder, Grace Tuthill, and Seong Min Yu. The reason I selected these artists were for various reasons. First of all, I love their work. They do amazing work, and it blows me away. They're very talented. The other reason is that a lot of them are my peers. We took classes together, and some of us are still at Sac State. Some have graduated. And I feel that it was important for me to include these artists because we were all affected in different ways when the COVID pandemic hit, resulting in the closure of Sac State. So I'm going to read a little bit of my curator statement. So when the COVID pandemic hit, students were faced with losing studio space. Not only that, we lost access to tools, to workspaces, and more importantly, we lost the face-to-face critiques and feedback that we would get from not only our fellow classmates and our peers, but also our professors. What we didn't realize or even anticipate was that the loss would also mean losing our motivation, our purpose, and our hope. And the more this pandemic continued, the more debilitating, the more crushing it felt. Because it felt like our creativity was not only put on hold, but being taken away. Artists were forced to reevaluate their workspaces at home and reassess the materials that they had been using. And that has been a struggle for many art students as well as myself. And the creativity was placed on a seemingly never-ending pause. So my intention with Isolated Intentions was to showcase these struggles, to see how artists found ways to reframe and recontextualize the works and methods, and finally break through the desolation and the creative inactivity and regain their well-intentioned pursuits as artists. So this show shows different ways in terms of sculpture, collage, and assemblage. But more importantly, it's not just about the work. It's about the significance of bringing us all together and showing that we are not alone in feeling what we've been feeling, and that we can push through and be resilient and just keep on pressing forward. So thank you. I hope you have enjoyed the show, and I love you all, and this means so much to me that I was able to give this to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Once again, we are really excited to be a part of the show and see the incredible work that you and the other artists have created over the past few months during your struggles and as you work through this time in your own unique creative ways. I now want to get into the artist panel with all of the amazing artists who are featured in the show. So if you are one of those people, you can now please turn on your camera if you have not already done so. And I'm going to begin asking questions. I want all of the artists to feel free to answer whatever question they feel comfortable or do not feel comfortable answering. Some of the questions are highlighting specific pieces of art. In no way to that artist, if you are featured, do you have to answer the question if you do not feel comfortable. But of course, I want to welcome everybody to do so and share the information and insight for this exhibition. So first and foremost, to open it up to all of the artists, when going through the struggles that Denise was describing just now, what was your initial response, especially when it came to your art practice? And again, any artists who would like to jump in and answer, go right ahead.
Well, for me, like everything got small. My motivation. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, but there is a slight echo, so you might have to mute the other device that you have connected.
Yeah, I feel like I did that, but that's muted. I felt like when COVID happened and we were sequestered, it's like everything got really small. Motivation, the vision to do things, follow through. Follow through is the hardest.
Are there any other artists who felt the same way, who also felt small in both their life and their space?
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I also was facing a change in my career because I worked in the entertainment industry. So, that's not a thing right now. So I had to move into retail, and that took away this whole other half of my creative space in my career. So it's been especially challenging to find some semblance of creativity in my day-to-day life. It just isn't there anymore. So you have to try and make it exist out of sheer willpower, and that can be really tricky on a daily basis.
Are there any other artists who would like to go into some insight, describe some insight to this question?
I think lack of space really is the biggest thing that a lot of us struggled with.
All right, well then we can move on to the next question. So it is understood that you all had to create your own personal studio spaces within your home and your apartments. So did any of you discover or change anything about your methods or your art as a result of having to create this brand new space and losing your studio space? Again, any artist you can answer.
Yeah, I'll answer. I had a really hard time because I felt like I had no space. I had a really hard time. It wasn't a safe place at my apartment to work. And I felt like I had found this new thing at ASL. I felt accepted. I felt welcomed. I'm from out of town. I'm from Kansas, and I moved to California. And, going to Sacramento, even though I'd lived in Sacramento for a little while before starting school here, I felt like I found a new community who were driven by the same things that I was. And I felt really welcomed by that. And it felt like as soon as I had grabbed hold of it, I was simultaneously stripped of it. And I think we were all asked to kind of just smile and say thank you for the opportunity in the first place. And that was really hard to have to be so kind and so gentle in a moment where I felt crushed. So, thinking about my space at home, it took me all the way up until like late this summer to actually get a space up and running here at my place that I felt like I could make work in. And it changed the material I used, how I made it, and all of my processes. I think it was good for growth, but growth really hurt. So
I wanna add to that. First of all, hi Amber, and I totally get what you're saying, especially the feeling of that crushing feeling of losing, what we had, and especially when you feel like, oh wow, you're finally making strides, you're finally like, you're getting your rhythm, and then boom, it's gone. So I have my studio space, my garage is converted into my studio space, but I have spent so much time at ASL, the Art Sculpture Lab, for those that may not know, because the work that I've been doing, required a lot of the machinery and equipment that ASL has, and I didn't have that at home. Like I might have some, hand tools, but I don't have a welder. I don't have a big table saw. And suddenly my studio space was kind of becoming storage because I never thought, I'm like, I'm good. I could worry about that later because I have access to everything that I need at ASL. Then shutdown happened. And now not only was I stuck with the crushing blow of losing that space, but now it's like, oh, I don't really have a good workspace at home. And so it felt like a double whammy. Like all of a sudden I'm like in this limbo. And it's still a struggle for me. I have not been able to really get my own studio back up to where I need it, where it's functional for me, because I'm still dealing with the loss of the access to everything that ASL had to offer. And like, I feel like I'm in this mourning kind of state. So like, I'm still grieving. I commend those that have been able to create a space for themselves. But I also empathize with those that are still struggling with that, because I'm currently in that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful insight, both you, Denise and Amber too, that I think a lot of us artists put ourselves into our studios and our workspace and we're doers. And to have that taken away from us, we have to recreate a safe space that is also functional and has everything that we need. And for those of us that didn't have a safe space, you then had to process that as well. I noticed myself turning much more inward and processing things that maybe I would have processed much farther down the line in my personal life and in my history, because I was home.
I wonder, were there any artists who can confidently say that the studio space they kind of were forced to create for themselves inside their own apartments or homes, can any of you confidently say that it gives you the same energy and motivation to create as the studio spaces you once had through Sacramento State?
I feel like my situation's a little bit different because I've always been used to working in my garage space. And so I did have a studio space at Sac State, and that was really nice, but it was so small. And I was like, oh man, this is like a little bit way too small for me. You know what I mean? Because like I like to make sculptures and like spread things out and work with plaster and things like that. And ceramics. With ceramics, you don't need a whole lot of space, but was not used to having a wall right in front of me when I was working. And that's how it was at Sac State. So it was actually, for me, when all of that happened, it wasn't that big of a difference because I do have a kid. And so I didn't spend lots of time at ASL, like extra time sometimes, but most of the time I was working in my garage anyway. So for me, that energy kind of carried over, but definitely the pandemic part of all of it affected my working, the motivation level, but the energy is the same. The energy to create, you know. I'm fortunate in that way, though.
Are there any other artists who would like to make a note on this question or this topic?
I think I didn't lose any space per se because I didn't have any studio space at Sac State, but I lost a lot of autonomy because everyone was at home all at once. And so I think that space was more of an emotional and mental thing, a mental like loss for me. And it's huge because I like to just kind of break things apart and leave them there. I can't do that anymore. So there was like this like, oh, I gotta clean up every time I try and like make something. There's this like cleaning up process. And I know I don't know if anyone else, you know, has to work through this, but I'm a parent and kids get into everything. And, you know, like it kind of like, it compartmentalizes things. And I don't like that in my process because it kind of takes away the joy of it, you know? So I kind of shut down. Yeah, I think a lot of people did. And I also felt really guilty about making art. I don't know why. I just had this like thing attach itself to me. And I was like, why am I doing this? What is it doing for the world? You know? So working through that has been a challenge. And I'm just so glad to be here with everyone. And I'm so grateful to be able to go to campus and see people's faces and interact with people, even just if it's like these little moments of time. But yeah, it's good to see everyone here.
I wanted to add something because we're talking about the physical space that we lost. But the other thing is the space of community, the space of friendship, the space of being around your peers and your colleagues, and the space of being with your professors and the amazing faculty and staff. That was really huge. It affected me, and I know that many agree. Like that sense of, you know, hey, I'm going to be with my tribe. I'm going to be with my people. And that, like, you know, we have our friends, you know, outside of school, we have our family, but there's just something different about communicating with the people that are living it with you, are breathing it, you know, the tribe, like that was gone. That space was gone. And it's like, suddenly like, you know, how do you recreate that? You know, and yeah, Zoom, you know, we've all gotten accustomed to Zoom, but in the beginning, the Zoom aspect felt very clinical, very cold, very, you know, like okay, I'm seeing people on the screen, but I'm like, I'm not getting that connection. I'm not getting what, I'm not getting those, like, the looks and the smiles and, like the expression and the body language and, I don't know, that, we can create our physical spaces to somewhat be able to carry on, but how do you create people around you, that understand what you're going through. So that, I think that's another important aspect of it.
That's a really good point, Denise. That actually gets me to one of the questions that I wanted to ask you all, because I'm also studying design. So I kind of understand a similar world to what you all experience. And I understand the process of critiques and feedback for work that we produce. So I was wondering, for you all as studio art students, what kind of loss was it to no longer have the critiques and feedbacks of your fellow artists, your fellow peers, your professors? And again, any student, including Denise, can answer this.
I feel like that kind of just goes hand in hand with what Denise was just saying. Me and her, we would talk all the time, like every day. Oh, and bounce ideas like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? This is what I'm thinking of doing. It's like we had our own critiques with each other daily. I feel like that was more important to me too than losing a studio space. It was really more talking to the peers. And, when you're in that kind of space, you are constantly talking to the same people, kind of. So for me, it wasn't like the official critiques in class. It was the people that were my friends, the people who I like really had already gotten to know, who I valued their opinions. And I was like, this is what I'm working on. What do you think? So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the same thing what you were saying, Dee, but I just kind of wanted to reinforce that. I mean, it's that community, it's that camaraderie that you start to build with, fellow artists and building that momentum.
Yeah, one of the things that I didn't realize I was so reliant on was being able to, be in the middle of a painting class, doing my thing, and then I get stuck, and I would just walk around the rest of the room and look at what everyone else is doing and see that texture, that color, and be like, oh, that's what I need. Got it. And that would just kick up the inspiration all over again. And now, not only is that not a thing because of isolation and all of that, but I've also graduated. So now I need to try and find a way to get that into my life, like outside of a school environment. And I don't even know where to begin with that. So I didn't know how important that was for me until it was, taken away. And it's kind of crazy to realize stuff like that.
I wanted to add something to what you said, Mary. You graduated and yet you're struggling because you weren't really prepared for how this would affect you. I kept on hearing, or rather being told, well, treat this as if you graduated and then you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. And I get that, but this is not like graduating, because when I graduate next spring, and, anybody that's graduated anything, it's a buildup, it's a preparation. When that day comes, now you're going to have to fend for yourself. Those things that you were relying on, that you can rely on it, but not in the same way that you used to. You have to fend for yourself. I can't see myself treating this as if I graduated, because I still need what I've been going to school for. I still need that feedback. I still need that camaraderie. I still need that advice, because none of us signed up for, hey, pandemic, now you're on your own. Like, this is not a goal that we all expected to reach. And it's like, I feel like it's a little unfair, when I hear like, well, treat it as such, because this is not as such. This is something completely different. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Mary, because I really think that's really important. Like, some of you have graduated already and you have to figure it out, but the way it happened, it's like it throws it all off. And some of us are going to be graduating soon, and we still have to figure it out because we know that it's not going to be the same, and I don't know, the whole thing is just, yeah. Let me stop before I start to ramble on, but you get it. Like,
I do have a follow-up question to that, but I want to make sure that there's no other artists who want to kind of comment on losing their peer reviews and their professor critiques and so on before I move on.
I was going to say something really quick. I think as artists, the reason we feel the camaraderie is because we're all driven by such a unique force. It's not only unique to us, but unique to people who create. We are driven by a force to produce things that feel intimate outside of ourselves and put them out into the world. And in a pandemic-filled world, especially in the beginning, you try and make art post this like epidemic we've been through, and you put it out into the world, and instead of like getting feedback, you hear kind of like the silent echo on a mountain. It felt a lot emptier. You just didn't get that kind of like the excitement that builds synergy when you make an item and someone else sees a texture or form or something that really invokes a feeling from them that motivates you to keep pushing to give people that emotion from your art. And even internally, right, to have those moments where you recognize things about your art because of where you placed it because you were showing it to someone, or even all those little moments that compile. And like when you tried to make art after the pandemic alone in your room, it really felt like knocking on an empty door or something, like an echo to a mountain. It just the resounding silence was deafening, and I think that was really big for me. So
Thank you, Ember. So I wanted to, Denise and Mary, you both were talking about graduating mid-pandemic and moving on to graduate in the spring. And of course, we are online for the spring, so there's a lot of uncertainty about what's ahead for the future. And I know John, who I don't believe he's here with us right now, but he also mentioned in his artist reflection, returning to campus, clearing out his studio space, graduating mid-pandemic, and kind of being thrown into this world. So I was wondering if any of the other artists who also graduated mid-pandemic, or if you're going to be graduating in the spring like Denise, if you want to kind of elaborate on that feeling of being thrown into this world suddenly with just the rug ripped out from underneath you, or that time that is soon approaching.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that a little bit. I think that there's like a lot of emotional preparation that has to happen in regards to graduating and going out into the artist community and starting your professional career. And it's not what anybody like hopes or anticipates for, like you imagine having like your community around you that celebrates and then sends you on your way. And whether you graduated last semester or this or the next, it's not a solid celebration.
Is there anyone else who can relate to that similar feeling, or, after graduating graduating and being thrown into it mid-pandemic, any type of feelings that you're willing to share?
Sorry to speak again, but I just thought of this. I think usually if you're an artist and you graduate and you're now being thrown into the world to be a successful artist, there's a lot of excitement, and the big thing for you, your main focus is talking to other artists, meeting people, getting yourself into spaces. Right now, none of that can really happen. So you're kind of left with like, well, what can I do? And that's hard to figure out.
Well, then I wonder, Andrew, who I believe is with us, I know you explained in your reflection that losing your studio and your tools, it felt like going back to the basics of art. So I was wondering, how did this change your art? Can any of the other artists, do you feel the same about just, having to go back to square one with the way that your art was?
Yeah, so initially, we all were on campus and we have access to a wood shop, metal shop, all this extra space, all this extra material. And having that access, we were open to so many more possibilities. But then as soon as they kind of cut it off and we were sent back home, it was just like a shock of like, what do I do now? I don't have a table saw. I can't weld metal anymore. You feel like you don't have the tools you worked so hard to get. And now it's like, okay, so step back. What do we do now? And I mentioned in my reflection, it felt like kind of like going back to arts and crafts, because we've as artists have evolved so much in our materials and the way we think. It feels like child's play, going back to the little things that we don't usually think about anymore. But it was something I think we all had to adapt to again, is, pull back those old things we learned before and see what we can do with what we have. And that was the biggest struggle for most of us, I think.
Can anyone else relate? Did it feel like you were going back to square one using arts and crafts because of these tools were taken from you?
Yeah, I just said I didn't realize that I was muted. But I said it's basically like going back to basics, going back to these, like, I like right now, I'm like looking at different materials that, I probably wasn't really paying attention to. And now it's like, ooh, this like everyday object is like, has potential, So I think that because we've had to reframe how we work and what we work with, it's like, I feel like it's opened up another world of possibilities that I was not that I wasn't aware of, but maybe I wasn't so inclined to pursue. And now I'm like, oh, let me go down this path. And it's like, like the other day I opened up something and I was actually, no, not the other day, it was last night. Like, okay, so yesterday was my birthday and I got a gift from a friend. I was actually more excited about the actual packaging that the item was included, more so than the item itself. And they got it. They understood. Like, I'm looking at things in a different way. So like Andrew said, yeah, like we're all kind of returning back to basics, returning to, a simpler time, and, in order to make it work, Yeah, Ember just said styrofoam. Yes, styrofoam. Oh my God. Yes.
Kind of tying into the question that, going back to arts and crafts, kind of tying into that, what kind of materials did you find yourself surprised you were using? Because noticeably, it seemed like a lot of materials were just common household items or things that you could just walk outside into your backyard and there it is, a plant or a branch or something. So did any of you find yourselves also using materials like this that you would have never considered prior to the pandemic?
I started using I remember so distinctly because I was mad when I made it. I was mad that I had to make something that felt like crafts. And I was so angry at this piece. So I was trying to make it, but it didn't look like an angry piece. And it's just 2 record players with cut up stickers into shapes just stuck onto them. And I hated it. I hated it the whole time I was making it. I didn't even really want to show it to the class. It had to be for an assignment. And that was really the only reason I was making work when it first happened. It's because the only motivation to make work was assignments. I was completely demotivated to make anything for myself. And so record players and stickers. And as I've started to let go my turned up nose at certain materials and reevaluate what material does for us when it doesn't read as what it is, or how we can manipulate it to become more and even be substantial, even though It was found with small resources and not much money. Like, you can scrape together things that read as fine art. So I was bemused when I found out that I could make styrofoam do similar things to wood and metal, or at least replicate some of the textures I had loved. And it took months for me to let that go. Months. But I finally did. And even though the last works I made had styrofoam involved and they feel maybe less permanent, the material did something for me in its narrative, in its concept for the piece that I could have never expected nor gotten from wood or metal. And so I think it turned from an anger into a constraint that pushed me, but it took a lot of emotional work to get there. So maybe.
I just want to quickly jump in on the chat. April said that she used bread dough. Maria says plastic bowls, cups, and plates. And then Zala says forks, spoons, and dirt.
Hey everyone, I've been finding myself using my phone more as an art tool since a lot of the way I'm relating to the world outside is through screens and social media and stuff, and a lot more like app-based like stuff with my work, which is kind of unusual for me. Thanks.
I can't speak too much to using a variety of materials because I primarily focus in ceramics, but I know that my scale had to change. I had like, really, I before the pandemic hit, I was just planning on building bigger and bigger. And I realized that like I didn't have the space to store, I didn't have access to fire, and even if I did find a way, like transporting stuff was difficult. So I went from, building 200-pound pieces to building like tiny, tiny sculptures.
I know earlier when April was speaking, she mentioned that once you all kind of restricted your spaces and the pandemic really started and quarantine was put into place, she mentioned feeling guilty for creating art, questioning like, why was she creating it? I wondered if anyone else could relate and say they felt the same way when they were trying to create as well.
I'd like to add about the April's ideas. And I heard when the April told us like she felt really guilty making art, and it was really happening the March. It's like the middle of March, everything shut down, and I'm start making at my place, and then I feel everybody some place the people's dying, and why I'm making art? It's like I feel so weird, and it looks very, very useless. But then later, it's like a time passing. It's like April is like the making art is kind of my social role. It's like whenever I'm doing my social roles, making art and keep my health healthy, and maybe it's helping we get out this difficult time. Then, so international students, Asian women, it's like so many controversial words and really affect to me. And it also I isolated from schools. It's the only connections in this society. I see peoples and making friends and even developing my art. And I'm really isolated. It's like so this isolation is impacts so much. I suffered from, feeling guilty after that. And especially sculpture making is so different than painting. The painting is 2D platforms, and it's really easy to, connect to our screen. So we are really, really connected just to 2 dimension, and it looks more effect than the sculpture. Sculpture has so many, the feeling, the textures, and it's hard to express just the photo taking. And that was one of my regret why I'm making things. And after that, and the summertime, like the government just announced if the school only open online class, international students should leave outside of United States. It's so it taking they announced taking 8 days, and I suffer so much. It's like everything's my work and my life is spreading this countries, and all of a sudden I have to go out to my countries. Like what can I do? I contact to school, and what can I do? Because at that time school didn't have any in-person class. Like it's more suffering. So at the time I feel like I worried about my physical location, and but also like I feel really isolated, and also I'm worrying about when we go kind of a normal life, and my status like a woman, Asian, international students feel like I'm totally gapped down like a stock market. Like I was so frustrating. I worried about how I almost forgot where I was. So like I should find my, actual, the emotional, physical locations where how I can belong in this society. So I think so. Then I'm keep making my work, and then I feel the art making really connected to my life, like just life equal as my work, and also the work just become a my life. It's really connected, because maybe I really isolated the others speaking, so I only focusing on myself, just making or having my life. My living room just messy with my work, and just to go making food and just walk around making. And so that's yeah, this is overall you gave me the several questions, and just to compact how I feel, how I survived from
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
amazing insight. Does anyone else relate, or any portion of that they can definitely elaborate or agree with in any way?
I wanted to touch in a little bit. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, cool. I guess my guilt stemmed from just, like how Min said, there was all these other things going on. And I mean, I personally did not have health insurance in March, so I was afraid that I was going to get COVID, and I just wasn't, the hospital was going to kick me out or whatever because I have insurance, etc. But I think my guilt was like how there were all these important things to worry about, and I was complaining about not having a proper workspace for art, if that makes sense. Like, there's all these things going on, and here I am complaining about how I can't go back to the studio. So I think that's where my guilt stemmed from. I had a lot more to say, but I forgot, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
No, that's great. That actually kind of gets me into my next point. And Julie, you have a piece called Homage to California. And I was wondering if any of the other artists, and of course, Julie, I would love if you could elaborate on this as well. Did you create your art or find yourself basing your art based off of all of these other issues happening around the world and within our own country and your own lives as a way to cope during this time? Or did you find COVID to kind of be this overriding theme in your art?
Yeah, great question. Can everybody hear me as well? Okay, cool. I actually wanted to touch on what Grace had said a couple questions ago about her ceramic work. I found myself in the past year and a half really focusing on ceramic as my choice of medium. And I really struggled with having the space at school taken away from me and not having a place to sort of, do the firing, have all these like glazes available and stuff like that. And when I started my sculpture journey, I was actually working with Dee, and I worked a lot with found material because that's what was taught to me at first. I worked with a lot of found material, and I was exploring ceramic as a sort of like, that's what an exploration, and I found this like new thing to get into, and having that taken away from me sort of forced me to go back to what I knew, and I found it really, I found it relieving, to have this thing to go back to, and that is what I did with this piece, Homage to California. It's a bunch of found objects, including a diptych that I didn't even finish in March. I like started it. It was supposed to be a present for somebody, and I was like, hey, I don't like this. I'm not gonna continue doing it. And I just kept it. And yeah, so I feel like COVID has definitely shifted how I make my work. And as far as commenting on all the other things that are happening besides COVID, like whether you're into politics or not, Maria mentioned being guilty for focusing on artwork and like space, lack of space when there's people dying and there's a bunch of other things happening around the world. I definitely felt that too. Like who cares? I definitely got to a point, and I'm an artist. That's what I'm studying, and that's what I want to do with my life. But I found myself saying, why am I doing this? Like, shouldn't I be doing more for other people? And I think that shift in perspective is it allows room for growth. Like I don't think it's good to get stuck in that sort of mind state. But maybe in the future, my work will involve like other people. So yeah, I don't know. I sort of lost the question along the way.
Oh, that was great. I wonder, can anyone else relate in, really thinking about the events that are happening in our country and around the world, and you find yourself kind of theming your work off on it, but then also questioning whether you should be doing the work in the first place?
I want to say something on that. So, I was dealing with the COVID thing, the school shutting down, and like I'm wallowing in that in that misery. And when things started happening, like, because this has been a crazy year, and it's just, seeing the news, seeing the politics, seeing, the divide, among people, and scaling it down to, personal levels. Like, one thing that I haven't really shared with anybody, like I was dealing with, having my parents, which are still dealing with it, they got COVID, and my dad was like in the hospital for 10 weeks in ICU, and my mom was in and out, and they're both like, they're elderly, they're in their 70s. And, I was dealing with the idea that not only am I going to lose one parent, I might lose two. And then adding, everything that's happening in the world, the fires, the politics, not being able to do what I needed to do. I started feeling like for a long time I was losing myself. Like it wasn't even about like I couldn't find a way, like, should I be doing more? It's just, I felt like everything was just weighing on me so much and just like beating me down. And like, I've been trying to climb out of this hole that, it's just like, I was feeling like the world from the most personal level to the global level was just caving in on me. And it's like, I'm still trying to climb out of that. And, I see other people, other artists, friends, there's just other people that were just using these things to motivate and to get them out. And it was just like, for me, it was the exact opposite. It was just, I was further suffocating and really, like, I felt like I've lost myself along the way, and I'm trying to gain that back, which kind of brings me, to why I did this, because, like, yeah, it's important for everyone to share, but this was important for me to help me kind of climb out of that dark hole, to give myself some kind of purpose, no, like, I'm better than this. I can't have the world beat me down. Like, I'm better than this. I have something to offer. For many, many months, I felt like I had nothing, and not only nothing, but like, you felt like you couldn't really do anything, because there were situations like my parents, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help them. I couldn't, like, there were so many things, so many out of my hand. And I felt like I have to kind of regain what I can grab hold of. And what I can grab hold of was my art, and doing this kind of is helping me get out that rubble. So, yeah.
I just, I want to say thank you, Denise, for sharing that, because there is a little bit of pressure, right? To like, make art to influence what's happening in the world. And there's so many terrible things happening in the world that we could focus on. And if I'm being honest, I focused on myself. Like, that was the only thing that you really have control over, right? And when I was forced to stop moving and stay at home, I think I was able, and not that I really wanted to, see that, like, I was unwell, that there were so many things that, like, I needed to check in with myself, and then I needed to learn how to self-soothe, to self-motivate, to be kind to myself, to process things. And then, like, usually you would have your support system to help you through those things, but you didn't. So I think that, like, there's no shame in, and I'm saying this mostly for myself, but for everyone here, like, for the people that had to focus on their well-being, there's no shame in that.
I really appreciate what both of you just said. Denise, I related a lot to what you were speaking about. I think the only artwork that I've done since COVID has been just like one little drawing in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. And that's it, like nothing else. So I've related to that a lot. And Grace, I thank you for those words, because that's doing a lot to speak to, like, my feelings of guilt over not making art. Like, it's the one thing I do. Why can't I do it? So that's really good, making sure that we take care of ourselves and check in with ourselves. It's good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what Grace said was really super important. Denise as well. I always like to remind myself that you cannot produce your best work unless you are feeling your best. And so it's important to put yourself first and make sure that you are in the right state of mind before you start to produce work for the world to see. I wonder, when Denise contacted you all, did any of you expect to be showing work during an exhibition during this time? Like, how did it feel to get that email, that text message, that phone call from Denise asking you to participate and show your work during this?
I want to hear from all of you.
Honestly, I'll go first. I felt anxious. I felt really anxious because, yes, we had started the school semester and I had made some work and I had made that vital transition that had happened between feeling like it was crafts and feeling like I could make something substantial. And like, I hadn't fully made the transition, but I was really nervous. I was nervous because it's not what I envisioned my first show at Sac State looking like. It's not. That was the first hurdle to get over. I was like, this is not what I thought, not what I planned. Of course I was excited. I know me, like I love jumping on stuff like this. I'll take any opportunity to like, share art with other people, come up with ideas, all sorts of stuff. I felt honored to be chosen, but I felt anxious because if you're on rocky terms with your own artwork, how are other people going to accept it, take it in, perceive it, all of that? Like, so multiple hurdles of emotion. Of course, like in my mind, the first answer was yes. There was no question. But the question was more like, what do I want to give the world about my experience that could help them too? Like sometimes all the upsetness feels like a really long, really overdrawn pity party, man. Like sometimes it just feels like a lot, and you're like, dang, it's been going on for a while and we're still here, we're still in it. But that impacted what I wanted to share. Maybe I shared one piece that was really sentimental and had something to do with my own trepidations with the health of my grandmother and how she has impacted my identity. And then other works that talked about the global scale of stuff. And I was still figuring that out while I got the invitation for this show. And I didn't know if I was going to figure it out. I personally had to question whether I had it in me to put artwork out into the world again, no matter, because like once you put artwork out there, you have to accept the outcomes of it. And I didn't know if I was ready for that, and I was nervous. Obviously beyond glad that I did. So happy we're all here today, but that was a big part of it.
I'm gonna agree with Ember and say I was pretty excited, but my stomach dropped because I was like, I don't know if I have any pieces that I could show to people that don't look like absolute trash. So yeah, but I was also like, this is my first show. I mean, do I want to just show pieces that I just happened to make, or did I want to show pieces that had purpose, if that makes sense? Because I mean, this show in itself already has a very important message in its entirety, and I was like, my pieces kind of like the message that my pieces have kind of correlate to that message. So what can I show? And I think I just had like that little mini dilemma right there. Just like, what am I going to show? What does it mean? What will they think it means? Like, and is everyone going to hate me because of it? No. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I am very surprised that you reached out to me, because I have always been since I've had low self-esteem, I've always like, seen my work as like, I don't want to say trash because it's such a like, so unprofessional, but like low quality, you know what I mean? Just something along those lines. So I am very honored that you presented me with this opportunity. So thank you.
You're welcome.
For me, first of all,
Oh, so
can I
sorry.
say,
No,
I'm
you go.
sorry. Who's talking? So yeah. So I love the name of our show. It's just when I see the name of our, isolated intention, it's like okay, I'm submit the photo from my house wall and also the photo from outside, and I feel so free. Like you already gave me the freedom of just my expression of the, isolation. So I'm just, I was so happy to have your letter that, okay, I want to show just whatever happening around me. That was my first, read.
I was actually really, really glad that this is my first show at Sac State. I'm like ecstatic that it was a group show. Because I think we touched on it before, but there's a sense of like education that happens when you're working with other people, and seeing everyone else's work was really inspiring for me. And I wanted to comment earlier on what Maria had said about her work being trash. And I just want to say that there are a lot of people criticizing our work already. Like, you don't need to go around calling yourself that. Like, trust me, plenty of people will call our work whatever they want, but you cannot be that person for yourself. And I don't think your work is trash. I think everybody here has the capacity to be their own worst critic. Like, everyone here has done that. Like Ember, you've looked at your stuff, and I think it is incredible that you've transformed this material into something that doesn't even look like it. And you're like, I hate it, like we've all suffered through that. And I think that was a really important thing to say, but stop doing that.
And I can always identify too, and I felt like it's been through my artist community to give me validation, and that's not to say that I can't validate myself, but it is a struggle because it's one of the most personal parts of you, and that has been, when you have your community and they see it and validate and resonate with it, it makes you feel like you're on the right track. And that's been one of the struggles too. It's like, I definitely feed and work better when I get feedback from my community.
When I got your invitation, I immediately was like, oh my God, yes, like, I can't wait to participate in this. I was like, wow, I have the perfect works. They're about quarantine. And then I had this moment where I was like, wait, Dee's seen these. Like, is she expecting something different? Because I don't have that. And eventually I was just like, you know what the heck? Like, these works are perfect for this show, and I'm really excited about it, and I'm just going to choose to be stoked. So thanks, because this has been really great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I was pretty stoked when you texted me, and I think right away I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, I graduated in May. And so trying to stay active in the art community is kind of hard. So that, I think that's like another element to add to like the excitement of, you asking us all to be part of this show, even if some of us have graduated, because I mean, there are some exhibits going on. I interned at Blue Line Arts this summer, and then I know the Elk Grove Fine Arts Center, I got into one of their competitions this year, but that was the only other thing I had this year was the Elk Grove Fine Arts thing. And then right after that, you texted me, and I was like, yeah, it's about keeping that momentum going after you graduate if you want to be an active artist. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was an amazing opportunity that you provided for us. Because, we're building our CV resumes, right? Yeah. And plus, I get to see you guys, and I miss all of you.
Is there anyone else who would like to add any final notes?
Yes.
I was so excited to get your email, Dee, because the pieces that I had put in to have a show, to be in the student show, came back to me. One of them was broken, the glass that covered a framed piece. And I was like, oh my God, my first time having a class at Sac State, because I got my AA, like at ARC, and I already have a master's degree, so I can't use my veterans benefits over at Sac State unless I get special permission. So I'm in this awesome class with Dee, and Mary and just, several of you others on this Zoom call. And then I'm invited to be in the student show. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a class at Sac State. The students are awesome. They're so motivated and I'm excited. I got 3 pieces waiting to go on the student show. And then COVID happens, from not more than 100 people can gather to then quickly it was, it just escalated. We also had some kind of event. There was a presenter at the gallery on campus. And remember there was buffet food out and we were already beginning to go into, very controlled size of groups. Was anyone there for the speakers for that? It was some, we were celebrating one of the long-term directors, right, or curators of the gallery on campus. And there were foods out. And I was like, oh my God, we're sharing food here and we're in a pandemic. All of those things had happened so fast. Then we're in the Zoom class to finish up with Robert Ortball and our collage assemblage. Then that's over. And I mean, even that was just it was so deflating to have to be then away from all the students who I found so inspiring. But, getting that email from UD, it just made me feel like, wow, I'm not forgotten. I didn't fall off a cliff. Dee has some memory of me having been in class, and she cares enough to reach out and say, hey, I want to see us all together in this unified way and show some work. And I just really appreciate the initiative you took to do that. And I also want to share some thoughts I have about the issues, with guilt. I might be one of the older folks on this Zoom call, but I also have 20 years as an Army veteran. So when I deployed to Afghanistan and couldn't do any art, I did do some writing. When I found some wire on this big camp at Camp Phoenix, I took some of this thin wire back to my office. I was the commander of a medical unit, and I found this wire, and I'm hauling it back to my plywood commander hut, and I start making this running person, silhouette. It's all negative space except for this wire, and I put it on the outside table of my office, right near what's called the commander's information board, and I put this 3-foot running person, and on my whiteboard I said, "Stay fit to win." And it's this running person, and someone stole it. And that was such a compliment. And I thought, oh my God, even in the freaking combat zone, people are going to take what they want. And I'm making art to share and motivate people, but someone wanted it so much, they wanted art in their space that they steal it. And then I put on my whiteboard, please bring back the running man. It never came back. But you know what, Dee? You came back. You came back to all of us, and that matters to me. And I want you guys to know, you young folks, I've been in this a long time. My art warrior spirit was put to rest when I had to serve in uniform, and I chose to do that as a warrior for peace. But be warriors for creativity, because art is medicine, as I have said, and we are needed. Artivism is needed. Rise up, take your art, be that voice, challenge people to think, and do it with love and power. Be the warriors. Even when the money's low, right? And your tank is low, be the warriors for art. I love you, Dee. Thanks for bringing us together. And Tatum, if I'm saying your name right, for facilitating.
I think Andrew also wanted to say something, so.
Yes, Dee, your invitation for me was the spark I needed. My fire was smoldering, it was smothered and it was just smoldering, and that spark kind of reignited it. I really had no reason to sit down and make a piece, to make art. I think all of us we've been so busy. It's kind of the last thing you really need to think about. It's like, let me get all this other stuff done first. And as soon as I saw that, it was just, my brain was like, it just unlocked all the things that I had been suppressing, all the creativity. And it helped a lot. It was, and you, I've always really appreciated or held highly your opinion on things. And so when I received that invitation directly from you, I was like, wow, what? D appreciates me at that level. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you all for these amazing comments. Was there someone else who wanted to talk? I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I just wanted to thank Dee again. Not only is it like very flattering to be so so sweet. Not only is it really flattering, Dee, that you would see that like quality artist in us and like see our potential, but when all of us were struggling so much, your outreach like changed us. I mean, it really like made a connection. It brought us back to our community. It gave us a motivation. And that's really impactful. It's really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you all for speaking and sharing those amazing compliments of Denise. As was noted in the chat, y'all made her cry, but I assume they're happy tears, very grateful tears.
Yeah, I wanted, first of all, oh my God, like, thank you so much for those words. This was hard. This is a hard thing for me to do. You know, like you all said, that you felt some level of excitement, but also, you know, anxiety and apprehension, and, you know, yourself doubting yourself and questioning yourself. I was right there in doing this because this is something I've never done before. And I decided to, you know, in some of you know me in great D fashion, I'm going to go at it alone. I'm going to do it all. And I'm going to, you know, try to, you know, take on this big challenge. And, you know, I doubted myself along the way. I honestly, I was like, I took a risk with the idea that I had. I took a risk with reaching out to all of you. And, you know, my husband, who's in the background, I would tell him, like, you know, nobody's going to respond. They're going to think that this is like, what is this? Like, you know, who are you? You know, the idea of being forgotten, I felt like that. I'm like, okay, maybe the class time was a momentary thing and it's all gone. And when everybody started reaching out and was like, yes, I was like, oh my God, like I'm on to something so special. You know, what that thing is, I wasn't sure yet at that moment, but I knew this was going to be so special, so important, so significant in not only jumpstarting what I needed to do for myself, but kickstarting everybody else back into that gear that was probably lost for so long. And, you know, wow. And then seeing everything coming in, I was like, wow, I'm like, I did good. I'm like, the work is amazing. It's like, oh, but, you know, but I don't know. You all really surprised me. You all went above and beyond, and my glasses are fogging up, and you made me cry. And I have no words. Like, this is like, I know that, you know, for the rest of my life, this is going to be a very significant, proud moment that I was able to do this, you know, and I hope that I can continue doing this, not only for you guys, but for more people, because, you know, I feel that throughout my life, I really never had this. You know, I never had somebody remembering you or keeping, you know, thinking of you for for anything like this. And it's like, I feel like it's important that I do that. I stop that. I break that cycle and give it to those that are deserving, you know, and in hopes that you each will be able to do this down the road for somebody else. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Tatum. You know, thank you, everyone. You know, yeah. Just thank you.
Thank you, State, for whoever you had to go to network for this, Dee. I'm so proud of you for the logistical energy that you put into this, the calls you had to make, the setting up the Zoom. I mean, you really stuck it out, you know? There's, you know, lead, follow, or get the fuck out of the way. And you got lead and you got follow all when you need it. We need you. And we would not be here if you didn't set this up, you know? If not you, who? If not now, when? You got it, girl.
Thank you.
Look at all the people that answered your call. You're in your element.
Thank you. Thank you, Renee, for that motivation. And throughout the entire call, all of the motivation you've been giving. Thank you, Denise, for this fantastic show and for taking the time to really reach out to these artists and set up all of the logistical information behind the scenes. Thank you for allowing the galleries to work with you and host this event to hear all of the artists speak today. And thank you to all of the artists who have participated and are willing to show their work and be a part of this event. It's really been an amazing treasure and treat during this time, especially when we have so much happening around the world. It's amazing to see you all still be able to find creativity, even if it's been a struggle, as it is for many of us. So once again, thank you. Thank you to everybody who has come to the event today to watch and participate. I now want to open it up for all of you. You can now turn on your cameras and your microphones if you'd like, or you can just, you know, keep those off and stay reserved to the chat. But this is now your time to speak up, ask the artists any burning questions you may have, put them into the chat, speak up on your own. This is your chance.
Sure you want to show yourself?
No, maybe we don't.
Somebody have a question that they wanted to ask? I know the individual named Lynn, you popped up. Did you have a question?
We just wanted to share that we thought it was a great idea to hear each of you speak about your art and speak about your experience during the pandemic. I turned off the camera because we're here in a basically a hospital bed situation with my mother-in-law. But it's been wonderful hearing all of you and hear your experiences during this. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're so welcome, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I will second that. Uh-oh, I'm hearing an echo. Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was just going to second that. I thought it was so wonderful to hear everybody and to hear your experience and how powerful it is to all come together on even if it's on Zoom. And Ariana sent the link to the show, and I looked at that and I was so impressed. And then I feel like I got to know everybody a little bit. So that was just really great. And I loved the show, and would be wonderful to see it in person, but it was also really wonderful to see it online and know it was in real time, and I think the things that you all said are what many, many people are experiencing right now. So it gives voice to that everyone's going through, and just really appreciated the types of questions. And is it Tatum? I thought your facilitation was just superb. I really liked how you drew everybody in and out. And good to see you, Ember. And so thank you for including us.
Thank you, Diana. That was great. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question or maybe share some thoughts on the show? All right, I can make one last call and then I think we can start wrapping things up. I just want to make sure everybody who wants to ask a question they may have, maybe a compliment they'd like to give to an artist, now is your time. Feel free. Speak up, unmute yourself, show your face.
I just wanted to say thank you, Denise, and like thank you to my sister for putting the link on her Instagram. I thought it was like really cool because she always talks about her art, and like I never really saw how it affected her, and to like see a whole community of people that think similarly to how she thinks and like express how everybody like felt and how it affected them like negatively or like positively, and to see like how everybody was affected to this change. And I thought it was just amazing, and I loved seeing everybody's art.
FYI, that's just my sister, by the way. No.
Thank you so much, Ophelia, for sharing that.
I don't want this to end. Does anyone else feel like when Tatum says, okay, does anyone else want to say anything? And then there's like this painful, long, I mean, I appreciate silence too, but I'm kind of like, oh, come on. I know you guys are like feeling things and you want to say things and you don't want this to end either. And as soon as it, like this is over, someone's going to say, oh man, I wish I asked that or I said that. And it's just so hard to like see it end or to feel like, when are we going to do that again? When are we going to get the tribe together again? We need a space like in the real.
I think, what you just said there, that last part, Renee, I am sad that at some point what we're doing today is going to end. And it's like, then it's like, what else? What's next? What is that? And what does that look like? And what form does that take? And it's like, I'm going to be really like, I'm really proud of what I was able to pull together, but I'm going to be really sad. Like, it's going to be really hard once this is done. It's like, okay, now what? But, I'm going to take in what we've all shared, and hopefully that'll add fuel to my fire. It'll add fuel to your fires, and we'll be able to kind of go out there and just keep that momentum, even if it's slow, even if it's just a slow go,
Well, I also wonder if Sac State, given all the resources they have, if someone, let's just imagine that, you had the energy to sort of orchestrate a post-COVID community of creatives, right? So then we have like this drop-in availability like the ASL, but it's literally for people who have had a class or, and are somewhat connected to Sac State and just want to have a space to come together and have, some of the expanded tools and access to like the junk wood boxes and all the stuff that was available there, but also time to get the tribe together. We got a dream, right? The first step to creating community is to envision it.
Yeah.
Denise, can I ask you something about your work?
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to ask Mary Tinder too. I'm trying to ask, I just want to know more about the art. Can you describe your works a little bit more? And because when I think of the work that I've seen from you, which hasn't been a lot, unfortunately, but I think of like metal and like these like really hard, things. And this work is kind of a departure from that. And I know can you explain like how you decided that this is what you wanted to work with?
Okay. Well, first of all, when I was putting this together, for some reason, I kept on eliminating myself from the show in terms of creating work. It was kind of pushed back in the recesses of my mind. Like, I'm just going to focus on doing this for everyone. And then I kept on hearing, well, what are you going to show? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, and even if I didn't respond that way, I responded that way to myself internally. Like, wait a minute, like, I need to be part of this because this is also affecting me. And it took a long time to get that motivation. And I remember in a conversation I had with Andrew, and I remember him distinctly saying, well, you got to be part of this. Like, you have to show something. And I was like, you know what? I do. I was like, I felt like if I didn't, not only would I have that regret not participating, but I felt that I would have been changing myself from not including my work in that, in this whole world. And the piece that I created, like, it was really simple for me because I like to use a lot of things. And I felt like I just need to make something and not really think about it. Like, what do I have on hand? I have egg crates, I have yarn, I have spray paint. And I was like, let me not even think about it. I'm like, let me just use my emotion and create. And that's what I created. And what I created was how I've been feeling. It's this, like, I feel like I've been restricted and restrained. And I wanted these materials to feel like, they were binding one another. But I loved what was happening because the egg crates felt like it was this expansion that was happening within this contraction. And I'm like, yes, like, and I'm envisioning this is, and that piece is just the start of it. Like, I really want to explore that, but I like the idea of wrestling with this idea of like, I'm being suffocated, but I actually want to break through. And how do I do that? And I feel like, yes, like, I'm breaking through the barriers that I've created for myself. I'm creating, I'm breaking through, these restrictions that I've given myself. So that's where those pieces, how they started, and hopefully I can expand on them and really explore this idea of eventually breaking through and breaking out of this. So I hope that that answers your question, April. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Mary, I haven't met you formally in person, I don't think. I don't know. I can't think past 6 months ago. So you have a piece in the show, and I think birds are in the title. That's what I remember. Your work really speaks to me, like the use of the textiles and anyway, can you talk about that piece a little bit more, if you don't mind, if it's not putting you on the spot, or if you feel comfortable?
You're fine. Thank you for asking. I think the piece you're referring to is Three Birds Dance in a Cage. And that piece was sort of my culmination of a bunch of different pieces I did specifically about how I was feeling during COVID when it all started. I started with feeling very like boxed in and caged and, that feeling where you want to like rip off your skin, that basically, but like daily. And then it ended up transitioning into this like daily management kind of thing. And there were some works that came from that. Throughout that whole process, I was kind of just thinking about like the experience that a caged bird must have, where he's got these wings and can fly and, soar through the sky, and it's this embodiment of freedom. But if you put him in a cage, there's nothing he can do, and he's not himself in that sense. And I felt very much like that, especially creatively speaking. Like, I have these skills, I have these tools, but I can't access that right now because of my mental headspace. So I felt like a caged bird. And I had these wire portraits of myself that I had done previously with a completely different intention. And I decided to use them as like embodiments of these birds, and put them in this cage-like structure. But I left one side open because at that time, a lot of people were like, stay inside, wear your mask, isolate yourself, let's get this pandemic over with. And other people were like, nope, we're going to carry on as usual and screw it all. So, you have this choice of whether you're going to protect yourself, protect your family, protect the rest of the world, or you're just going to go about your business. That's your choice to make. And my birds stayed caged. Like I had to make that decision to stay in that awful mental state for the safety of myself and everybody I love, and everybody around me. And that's a really awful decision to make, just to be put in the place where you need to make that decision. So that's what that piece was speaking to. And my last image was months later when I got myself out of that headspace. I continue to struggle with creativity and accessing that. But I don't feel so much caged anymore. So I felt the need to release those birds from that like encasing that I'd made for them. And they're now hanging in my bedroom and hopefully inspiring me in that way. So yeah, thank you for asking about those.
Thank you, Mary. That was really beautifully articulated. Thank you.
Mary, your work is so beautiful. I loved watching you in class, and I'm just looking at an email I got. Your work reminds me of an artist. I believe she lives in Oakville. What's the? Oh my God, I'm not from California, you guys.
Oakland,
yeah. And she's working with threads and doing past gestures of hands. And I'm going to send that to you guys in the chat if I can find her whole link. But oh my gosh, your work, Mary, is just so full of gesture, energy, emotional value. And oh my gosh, you're going to love this person's work that I sent you. I think, guys, if you get to meet, I think that'd be really cool.
Thank you, Renee.
By the way, on that note, the reason I was even in the Sanchez Arts Center 50/50 fundraiser is because I saw Robert Ortball had a show at Sanchez Arts Center in Pacifica. Remember, we were all going to go and we had like write papers and everything. And we're like, oh my God, here's another opportunity. We got to go see his show and write about it. And then COVID happened. I end up submitting to the Sanchez Arts Center and got in. I had to do 49 6-inch by 6-inch panels. And then your 50th one could be 10-inch by 10-inch offset from your display. It's an amazing opportunity, guys. If you want to research Sanchez Arts Center and just look at the work that they're doing and see about getting ready mentally to submit to that 50-50. I had a great time. I sold 10 pieces. One was to an international buyer in England. And so it just felt great to be immersed in that commitment and to meet so many other artists. You get to trade when the show's over. You can trade with other artists who want one of your pieces and you want one of theirs after the show is over, you know, in the sale. So I'm going to send you this link to that particular artist, though, Mary.
Thank you, Renee. Does anybody else have any other questions that they would like to ask or any other compliments they would like to make?
I wanted to ask something to like whichever artist is willing to answer. So like after hearing everybody's like experiences and stuff during quarantine, is there anything you guys want to accomplish in yourselves or in your art career by the end of quarantine, even though you can't go out?
I just want to paint again.
So I'm gonna jump in and answer that real quick, Ofe. So actually, I really recently I started a art community for Latino and Latina artists in Sacramento called Un Cafecito. Which, by the way, if there are any Latino and Latina artists interested in joining, just message me directly and I'll send you a link to how you can contact me. But a thing I've been thinking about is actually like we're kind of like a decent sized group now. There's like 13, 14 of us. And I think it would be awesome to just try to like make an art show. You know, there's a bunch of artists in there and they all have amazing work. And I think just like it would be a nice like artistic post-COVID celebration to just have like a nice art show where everyone like showcases their work and showcases what they've been working on during the pandemic. And the reason I say post-COVID is because, you know, even though virtual shows are awesome, there's just like that feeling you get when you see an artwork in person that you just don't get when you see pictures of artworks, if that makes sense. When you see an artwork in person, you just get this whole other vibe. You see the scale and the scale makes an impact on you and, you know, all these other things. So yeah, I want to learn how to curate a show for my art group.
Maria, if you can, drop that link in the chat so people who are interested can sign up.
Does anyone else want to touch on that? All right, and then I can make a last call for any final questions or comments that anyone would like to make.
I have a question. So also, I just want to commend you guys for the beautiful show. Your art is wonderful. And I just want you guys to know that, you know, your work matters, you matter. And it's amazing how resilient each of you are. Maybe to help each other out, what's one thing that's been really helpful to find inspiration or motivate yourself to create and make something for yourself and for others?
Do any of the artists want to touch on that?
One thing that really helps me with making work is just allowing myself to take the time to do it. I think especially now that I'm assuming like school is in full swing, if you're like also working, there's this other sense of like need to do other things besides creating art. And it really helps to sort of just tell myself like it's okay, you can like take a day and take this like time to do this. and not feel bad that you're taking the time to do that.
Thank you, Julie, for sharing. I think then we can start to wrap everything up if nobody has any further questions or comments they would like to make. I want to thank everybody for coming and participating today, all of the participants who came to watch, and of course, all of the artists who submitted work for the show and were featured. Thank you once again to Denise for organizing everything and putting on this fantastic show. It's really well appreciated, and it's a beautiful, beautiful show. You did a very nice job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. John, did you have your hand raised? John? Yeah, we don't hear you. Yeah, I think John just was one of the late showers, and he wants to add something, but we can't hear him.
Here, we can wait a little bit to see.
Yeah. No.
Is it not working?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you have to pay to have this Zoom?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there a fee to have this Zoom?
No, this was most graciously provided by the University Galleries in Sac State.
Right on.
Yeah.
Good job. Very good job.
I just wanted to say real quick, so I did drop the link for the Un Cafecito Discord in the chat for those who are interested. And I did, it was mentioned in the chat, and I wanted to bring to everyone's attention too. There's going to be a show for Bob, or there's a show going on for Bob. His reception's at 6 tonight. I forgot the name of the gallery, but if you know, it's like right across from Mavericks, the hair salon, like on and I think 20th. If you guys are able to make it, please do.
I have the information right here. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Keep. Sorry. I'll wait my turn now.
It's at 915 20th Street.
There we go.
915 20th Street. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I also just wanted to, I also just wanted to celebrate Ember for her participation in Bob's show. We're talking about celebrating community, and that's one thing that if you can make it to the show, you'll be able to see kind of her influence in it as well.
Congrats, Ember.
What did you do? Are you going to be performing, or what's going on? Are you allowed to play?
I don't want to give anything away. No, I was merely offered, the opportunity to help him get the show ready while he's been so busy recently. And as most of you know, I am proficient in lasers and using the lasers to cut things. But if you get the opportunity to come see it, you absolutely should. I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, it was just a nice opportunity to work with Bob on his show and feel included in that and feel like my input was valuable to him. So that was really nice. And it's a really nice art-filled day for me. So this plus going to see Bob's artwork later, hopefully I'll maybe run into some of you there and we can all, run into our tribe in a COVID-safe way and enjoy some art today. So I'm really excited for that. And I think, but the focus here is everyone. And I'm so happy we got to see each other all here no matter what. It's been a really beautiful day discussing art, which is literally my favorite thing. So cheers, guys. Thank you.
That was basically what I wanted to say too, is just, it's like, it's easy, especially like, with their like shutting stuff down again and all this different stuff. And it's just like, it's easy to get kind of like downtrodden sometimes with all this stuff. I know that we have all kind of come in and out of that at times, but just coming into this and seeing all your faces and like just hearing a little bit of that, there's a perspective that we have here within us that is important for us to share with one another and to share with other people. And it makes my like literally, like I feel it in my heart seeing you guys all right now. And I know this has been just such a crazy time and stuff, but it does make me feel, it makes me feel good to interact with you all. Even, you know, this Zoom is good enough. I've had some great experiences with Zoom, and there's an artist that I know that's going to Sac State right now, and she's been trying to organize these Zoom meetings just like this where people can just talk about art, because she's going to classes and she's like, what the hell's going on? You know, I need to talk to people and discuss, and like artists, we're not like normal people. We're different. And it's really cool. Like D, you putting this show together and like just being like, you had a solo show opportunity and you opened it up to us all. I'm really, I am very thankful for it. And it's really great to see you all. And Matt, I love your background. I think that's a real background. Is that newspapers or?
Thanks, John. Yeah, this is a home installation. Yeah. No one else has really seen it in person, but that's okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's old medical stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's good to see you all. I love to see everybody here, and then new faces too. There's people who I have never met before, or, you know, and people, of course, that I have. It's awesome. So.
Well, thank you everyone for your participation, for your art, for your creativity, all of it. This has been a very fantastic event, and I know I feel very grateful to be able to host it and speak with you all today. And also seeing the show itself was very amazing. It definitely brought some light into my life, and I hope many others that was missing because of everything going on. So thank you all once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody that participated. Yeah, you guys are great. Hopefully we can do this again in the future.
Yeah, Dee, maybe we can organize more of these this could be like a sculpture club thing or something. Because it would be fun. I mean, everybody here thinks it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I don't know. We could have other artists enjoy doing it too, so it's something to think about.
And I think Sac State should keep it going, like absorb the little cost, because they can. Because you got it going on. You got us hooked up.
There we go.
Thank you all. I think we can end the event on that note then. So thank you all again for coming and participating.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks again, Dee.
Thank you. Thank you all. Love you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dee.